Hi folks, you might recall my video from a couple of months ago on the PXP 3, which is basically a cheap Chinese Sega emulator. And when I reviewed it and tore it down, I basically showed you that it came with two cartridges, 40 games on each and 40 games built in, something like that, around that sort of figure. And when I tore down one of these cartridges, I found that there was basically no components on it whatsoever, and the actual cartridges themselves were purely just shorts between the four contacts that are inside and the cartridge slot. And I basically did a little hack video where I showed you how to. I broke this when I was taking the cartridge apart, but yeah, it basically shows you how to put a couple of switches onto the bare PCB, which allowed you to simulate the different cartridges being inserted into the PXP itself. So you don't have to switch cartridges to select the different built-in games. And it looked essentially something like that. So this would slide into the top of the PXP like so, and you can see it's quite cumbersome. I mean, the cartridge itself, but with these switches on top, it's even more so. But it was quite handy just for selecting those extra cartridges. And a user tonight commented on my video, DuronRon69, and he said, yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy your video, I think I'm going to get one and do your hack. And yeah, I said, £10, yeah, go for it, it's really good. And he says he was thinking about fitting a blanking plate, so I thought I'm just going to dig this out again and have a look at it. And look in the back to see how we could facilitate that. And looking in here, there's I don't know if you can see that, but there's a recess all the way. It goes on top of the PCB. There's essentially a slot, and there's a groove at each side. So my initial thoughts were to possibly make a blanking plate like DuronRon69 suggested, and I sort of cut a little template, which obviously just to mark out the slot itself. And I thought, yeah, it would look okay, but I'm not really convinced on it. It might be quite difficult. It's a lot of effort to do that. And then I was looking at the cartridge and I thought, well, could we just cut this in half and then just slot it in and keep the switches retained, in the same position, but just have them so when they were and they would just be poking out like that. And I thought, yeah, that would do, but it's still not perfect. And the top of the cartridge isn't, it won't fit into the recess of the cartridge slot nice and flush. And I turned it upside down, and I thought, well, that looks quite nice actually. And if I take the switches out, because I've got loads of these switches, and then if you line this up, you can see that the cartridge, the bottom of the cartridge slot, fits perfectly. If we were to cut it down, it would fit in perfectly. So I thought, yeah, that'll be good, but how is the switches going to look? And when I put the switches in here, like so, they are absolutely at a perfect height. They're completely recessed. You can barely just see the top of them. So they're very nicely recessed, and you can just press them and they work, they're perfectly functional even though they're recessed. So I thought what we'd do would be to basically cut down this cartridge in half, basically wire up in the same way we did with this, wire up the PCB to these two switches and essentially just epoxy this in place. So we're going to have a nice flush PXP mod. So I think we'll do that now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to cut this down to size just to save time and mess and noise and all that good stuff. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to basically install it. I'll see you in a minute. Hi folks, welcome back. Right, okay, so what I've done there is I've just taken a sharp knife and scored the plastic along. The sort of front of the cartridge is a bit difficult because it's got a little peg which you've got to cut round as shown there. Let me just get it to focus. So yeah, so that's our two short pieces, and what I've just done is I've just cut it just beneath this sort of ledge, if you like, or what's going to be the ledge where the switch is going to sit in. And if we then put those two parts together, like so, you will see we have a nice shape that's going to fit into that recess on the back of the console. Now, obviously, this is going to look better because it'll be glued together. It might be quite difficult to get it to sit in nice just now, but you sort of get the picture. So that's going to sit in there like so, and our switches are going to be recessed down into there. So having a look inside, what I did was I test fitted the bare PCB with those pieces in, and if I just use this back piece, you will see it doesn't give as much room for manoeuvre. There's only about 2mm, maybe 3mm space between the bottom of the switches and the PCB. So I initially hoped we'd be able to somehow basically just solder the switches direct onto the PCB, but I don't think that's going to be realistic. So I think what the easiest option is going to be is to remove the actual cartridge slot itself. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to use my little snips, and I'm just going to cut the 4 connections on that, and then it just literally falls out. Okay, and we can see that that one wasn't even connected in. I don't think that must be the one that was. There we go. Yeah, that must be the one that wasn't actually part of the connector. So if we this is the way the cartridge went in, so if we flip that over, we'll just check that our connections are going to marry up. So get this lined up, hopefully. So yeah, we've got pin 1 oh no, that's not right. Yeah, I think that's come off the other side. I'm just going to pause that again. Sorry about that. I'm just going to pause that and check the side of the other side of the board, because we can see that our this pin here comes up here. So this was our pin 1. This was our pin 2, and that was pin 3, yeah, and pin 4, which you rerouted it over there. So yeah, that pin there wasn't actually used. In fact, it's just fallen out as well. Yeah, I don't think it's taken too kindly to me snipping it with the snips. Just bear with me, I shall pause again, and I'll take this board out and we'll flip it over and have a look and see if there's any damage where I've snipped that. 2 seconds. Welcome back. Right, okay, so it turns out that this is a really badly made PCB, truly atrocious. That pin that fell out, I thought it was one that wasn't connected, but it was. It's just lifted the trace off. This trace here is lifting, as is this one here. But that's not a drama, because you will notice that next to here we've got some sort of test points. Okay, so what I've done is I've mapped out the PCB and marked the pins that are actually connected. And obviously they marry up with the four pins there, but you can see pins will go this side. 1, 2 and 4 should be connected, so all is not lost. So what I'll do is just if I can find my pen. As you see, my workbench is a bit of a mess. I'm just going to mark the ones we need to trace. So we need to trace this one, and this one. And all we're going to do that, or all it's going to take to do that, is just using our multimeter on continuity mode, as I'm sure you're aware. So check continuity, happy with that. So the first pin we're going to check is this one. and then straight in. Yeah, so this pin is connected to this test point here. So what I'll just do is I'll call that, we'll call that 4, 3, 2 and 1. So that one's pin 4. So the next one I've got to trace is 2, and hopefully there's enough of the track left to do that. Yep, so that one's goes to there. So that one's pin 2, and finally pin 1 goes to there. Okay, right, so we've found or traced the board out now, so exactly where everything's going, and I think the easiest thing to do now with these loose connections is just take them out, and they just pull out very, very easily. Obviously be careful not to lift the traces off the board. Of course there is a chance that these are through hole plated and this won't work, but you know, we'll have to take that risk and see if it works. So got our Kynar again, so we'll just trim the insulation off, and we don't need a lot on these at all, and I've made these purposely quite long just so that if I do need to route the wires elsewhere, we can do that, and that's going to be a lot easier. So that's where Kynar trimmed, and we will now tin the pads where that Kynar is going to go onto. So bring my little tip cleaner. So we want this pad here. Now obviously given the quality of this board, we're not going to want to apply heat for too long on this board, so it'll be a quick in and out, and that just doesn't want to take. Yeah, I think some flux might be in order. See if that works. So first of all, I'll see if some isopropyl alcohol might help. If we just clean the pads in the first instance. And of course this is going to remove everything from the board, but we know that that's pin 4, 1 and 2 on the edge. Right, let's try that, take 2. Right, that looks a bit better. Yeah, it's taking alright on this side. Okay, right, not to worry. So we'll just tack these on now. A little bit extra solder on there, just to give us something to stick the Kynar into. There we go. So there's a pin 4. Pin 1. And finally pin 2. Okay, perfect. So I'll give you a bit of a close-up on that. Hopefully it'll focus. Yep, so those are now connected to the test points, and that should work quite well. Now I think the easiest way we're going to do this is if I basically thread these through the same hole. So if we just put these through, now this little square hole, when I'm placing these wires through, is the hole where the pegs for the connector went. And now obviously you're going to have to remember which one of these is a common, which is this one here. Yeah, in fact we'll pull that through first. Just be careful, you've got a little kink like I got there. And what I'll do is I'll just twist up the end of that. Sorry, that was off camera there. I'll just twist the end up of that so I know that's my common. And then we'll pop the other two wires through like so. And what I think we'll do there is we'll just use a simple electrician's tape just to stick those down. And this is obviously going to be behind the LCD, so there is plenty of space for this. So if I just stick that down there like so, that's going to have that nice and secure for us. Okay, right, so I think the next thing to do will be to reassemble the sort of front half of this, and then we'll go from there. So I shall pause that the video and we'll come back at that point. See you in a minute. Right, welcome back yet again. Right, okay, so what I've done is I've just reassembled the board side. You know, I've screwed the board into the front of the casing, and I've just pulled those wires out. As I say, the square hole where the peg went for the cartridge connector, where these little pegs went here. So what we'll do is we'll pop this back in, and screw that. We will test it and make sure that we've not damaged anything, and hopefully those holes weren't through plated. Now if you remember, or if you recall me saying before, I managed to break the little surface mount slide switch in here, so as soon as I put the battery in, this will turn on. So let's just try that now. Okay, so if I turn that horrific music down, so we can see the top game's Zuma bubbles. So if I branched, remember where common was the one with the curl in it. So if I just hold those two together, so the common and one of the other wires, and press reset, we can see it's Sonic at the top now. And if I then try the second one, Samurai Showdown. So we're working. So next thing to do is to basically attach the switches and do the casing, and you know, get this little part in here to make our sort of switch recess. So I'll see you in a second. Hello again, folks. Right, we're getting there, nearly done. So next thing we're going to do is just attach the switches. So I'm just reusing the ones from the previous video. So obviously the two switches are joined by one of the pins, and that's our common. And this is our common here, which I've just put up to the top left here. And all I'm going to do is, I'll try and do this, probably easier doing it on the board actually. So quite a good dollop of solder on there. I don't normally use the term dollop when I'm talking about soldering. It's not normally a good term to use, but we'll just secure that on there like so. So there's our common, and basically the other two wires go to the other side of the switches. So if I just get that in position, we'll try and do this. It's not nice and secure. And finally, this one. Right, not the best soldering, but we'll call it functional. Okay, dokes. Right, so I had thought about using epoxy resin to do this, and yeah, I'm not sure if it's maybe the best idea to use it, because once you've used epoxy resin or epoxy adhesive, it's going to be quite tricky to take apart again if you need to. So I'm going to go with the good old hot snot, as it's affectionately known, the hot glue, and it is permanent and it is fairly secure, but if you do need to take it off, you can do so. So all I'm going to do is a little tiny dab initially on one side, and then we'll just check that and see. Oops, obviously let it set for a second. I think we'll just put it on both sides just now, otherwise we'll be here all night. Okay, so once that's on there, we'll just align it slightly. That looks fairly nice. Top tip: if you can't be bothered waiting for it to set, you can just lick your finger and rub it along, and it tends to seal quite quickly, cool down and set quite quickly. So looking at if I just get that little thread, I hate these little threads as well you get off the hot glue. So if we just tip this up on its end, we can see that our partial cartridge, or the bottom side of the cartridge, is sitting in there quite nicely. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy with that. So the next thing will be to position our two switches appropriately. So we can just use the kynar, because it's a solid conductor inside, it does tend to stay where you put it, more or less. So that's going to look okay there. So what I might do is just bend these pins down ever so slightly, just so they're on the board, and we'll put them, try and get them sort of equidistant from the edges, just to make it look a bit more professional. Excuse me. Right, so if we use a hot snot again, a hot glue, I'll lift that out of the way, and what I'll do is I'll just run a bead along here now. And I don't want this to go everywhere, and sort of squirt out the top, because that would make it look quite untidy. But we'll just pop those in, and we'll use that centre pin on the little peg on the cartridge as a reference, to make sure we're getting this at the same distance. I think what I'll do is I'll just pop a little bit over the top there as well, just to secure those contacts in. And I will wipe my hand, make it hygiene, and I'll just lick my finger and run that across, and start to set that a bit quicker. Okay. This might take a little while. I think I'll just pause until that sets. Welcome back yet again. Right, so you can see that's nice and set, and even just with the one side, that's nice and secure and holding the switches in position. So yeah, the wiring's all in there, relatively tidy, ready to go. So what we're going to do next is put this other side of the cartridge on, and that's just basically going to clip on like so, just like that. Sound like Tommy Cooper there, for those who remember him, just like that. Anyway, yeah, So yeah, what we'll do is now we'll secure that up, and we'll do so just again using our hot glue. So if I just position it and sort of hold it in place, and what I'll do is I'll just run a little bit on there, like that, and a little bit on this side, like so, and then if I could just get behind the switches as well. So I'm sorry, that was mostly off camera there, I do apologise. And I don't want to fill this too much, because I run the risk of it squeezing through the top, but I think that should possibly do. And what we'll do now is hold on to that, sorry, and let it cool down. So I'll pause again. Right folks, welcome back to the final part of this PXP 3 mod. Last thing to do is put the battery in, which obviously works. Turn the volume down. We'll put the back on and see if it works. So, bubbles master again. We'll hold down our first switch, press reset, Sonic, and I hold down the second button and reset. Samurai Showdown, happy days. So yeah, and there is the final product, which I think you'll agree looks damn good. It's not perfect, but yeah, it looks quite good. What I did was quite a significant gap in between the two halves, so all I did was got some, again, good old electrician's insulating tape and cut a few little, as you can see there probably, cut a few little squares of that, and then just placed the little squares insulation tape in between the switches, and I think you'll agree that's give it a reasonable finish, and dare I say, it looks almost professional. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with that. I think it's a really good mod, and to see it in action again, just hold down whatever button you want, press reset. Oh, I think that's the one we already did. Reset brings your other one, or just reset with no buttons, and it takes you to your other lot of games. Well, there we go, guys. That was a more, you know, a more what's the word? More professional mod for the PXP 3. Hope you found it useful. I do apologise, I appreciate it. It's nearly half an hour long, this video, but hopefully you'll find it useful. And, you know, it makes it a lot easier than carrying those stupid cartridges that stick out the top. So there we go, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please give me the thumbs up, and please subscribe. And hopefully I'll be back with you soon for another video. Take care, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.